It happened without warning. A single headline that sent shockwaves through Hollywood and broke millions of hearts overnight. Jamie Dornan hospitalized after terrible accident in London. At first, no one believed it. Social media was filled with disbelief, confusion, and panic. Fans from all over the world flooded the internet, asking the same question: is he okay? According to reports, Jamie had been involved in a serious car accident late at night on a rain-soaked road near central London. His vehicle had spun out of control and collided with a guardrail. Witnesses said the crash was violent, and that emergency services arrived within minutes. Paramedics reportedly found him conscious but disoriented, suffering from shock and minor injuries that appeared far worse in the chaos of flashing lights and rain. He was rushed to St. Mary's Hospital for urgent treatment. News spread like wildfire. Within hours, the world's top entertainment outlets were reporting the same heartbreaking story. Cameras gathered outside the hospital, journalists camped on the sidewalks, and fans began lighting candles and leaving flowers at the entrance. But it was Dakota Johnson's reaction that broke everyone. When the news reached her, she was on set filming a new project in Los Angeles. Crew members said she went pale. One assistant described it simply: she dropped everything. You could see the life drain from her face. A source close to Dakota later revealed, she was in the middle of a scene when her phone started buzzing non-stop. At first, she ignored it. But when her assistant whispered what had happened, she froze. Then she just collapsed into tears. The director reportedly stopped filming immediately. Dakota was escorted to her trailer, where she locked the door for over an hour. You could hear her crying, said one crew member. It was the kind of crying that comes from the soul, like she couldn't breathe. By that evening, she had booked a flight to London. No red carpet, no security detail, no public announcement. Just Dakota, shaken, emotional, desperate to be near the man who had once been her closest confidant. The moment she landed at Heathrow, paparazzi captured her wearing a long black coat, her hair tied back, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes. She didn't answer a single question as reporters shouted, "Dakota, how's Jamie? And, are you going to see him?" Her silence said everything. Outside the hospital, crowds of fans gathered, holding signs that read, "Get well soon, Jamie," and "We love you both." Security guards helped escort Dakota through the front doors just after midnight. Cameras flashed wildly, but inside those sterile hospital corridors, there were no lights, no scripts, no red carpets, just raw human emotion. Witnesses later claimed that when she first saw him, lying pale but breathing, she broke down completely. One nurse reportedly said, she ran to him, held his hand, and whispered something through tears. You could tell it was deeply personal. The staff quietly stepped out to give them privacy. Meanwhile, the world outside kept spinning. Hashtags like #PrayForJamieDornan, #StayStrongDakota, and #50ShadesForever dominated every platform. Fans from around the globe shared photos, video clips, and old interviews of the two, remembering their laughter, their connection, their undeniable bond. For many, it felt like reliving the magic of their story all over again, except this time, it wasn't a movie. It was heartbreak in real life. One tweet that went viral read, "They once gave us love on screen, now they're showing us love that's real." Inside the hospital, Dakota refused to leave his side. She reportedly stayed through the night, ignoring calls from her team and media outlets begging for comment. A source close to her said, she wasn't thinking about her career or the cameras. All she cared about was him. Doctors confirmed by morning that Jamie's condition was stable, though he would need time to recover fully. Still, the fear of losing him, even for a moment, had shaken Dakota to her core. As dawn broke over London, she was seen stepping outside for fresh air, her face pale, her eyes red. When reporters asked how Jamie was doing, she simply whispered, "He's strong, he'll be okay." Those few words, spoken through tears, would become the headline of the day. Because in that fragile moment, Dakota Johnson wasn't a Hollywood star, She was just a woman terrified of losing someone who once meant the world to her. And though the world finally exhaled knowing Jamie would survive, one truth remained. For Dakota, that night changed everything. The next morning, London awoke to headlines that no one could ignore. Dakota Johnson seen in tears outside Jamie Dornan's hospital room. Photographs captured her sitting quietly by the window, face buried in her hands, as the early light broke through gray clouds. Inside the hospital, the tension was heavy, doctors moved carefully, nurses whispered in the hallways. Jamie Dornan, though stable, remained under close observation after a long and frightening night. But what the world didn't see were the quiet, human moments unfolding behind those closed doors. Dakota never left his side. A nurse later told Daily Express, she was there before dawn, sitting beside him in silence. Every few minutes, she'd reach out and touch his hand, like she was making sure he was still there. At one point, she reportedly whispered, "You scared me to death, Jamie, please don't ever do that again." Her voice cracked mid-sentence, her eyes welling up again, but this time, it wasn't just grief. It was relief. Around 9 a.m., something miraculous happened. Jamie stirred, his eyelids fluttered open, his breathing steadied, and the faintest smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He looked at her, weak, disoriented, but aware. Their eyes met, and for the first time since the accident, Dakota broke into a trembling laugh through her tears. "You're awake," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're really awake." He tried to speak but could only manage a hoarse whisper. "Hey, don't cry." She laughed again, shaking her head, pressing his hand to her lips. "Too late," she said softly. A nurse who witnessed the exchange later admitted, it was like watching two people who'd known each other forever. No drama, no pretense, just pure emotion. You could feel the love in the room. By noon, news outlets began reporting that Jamie Dornan was awake and recovering. The public exhaled in collective relief. Messages of joy replaced the fear that had filled social media the day before. Hashtags like #JamieStrong, #Dakota and Jamie, and #HopeWins flooded Twitter and Instagram. Fans from around the world posted heartfelt notes. "We prayed all night. Thank God he's okay." Dakota's loyalty shows who she really is. That's love. But for Dakota, it wasn't about the cameras or the headlines. It was about the fragile reality of almost losing someone who had once been her anchor. As Jamie began to recover, he asked the doctors to let Dakota stay a little longer. "She's the reason I'm smiling right now," he reportedly told a nurse. "I opened my eyes and saw her, and I knew I wasn't gone yet." Later that afternoon, Jamie's family arrived, followed by a few close friends. Dakota stayed quietly in the background, offering hugs and reassuring words. When asked by a journalist outside the hospital if she was okay, she smiled faintly and replied, "I'm just grateful he's alive. That's all that matters." Her voice trembled, but her words carried a quiet strength, the kind born from deep connection and genuine care. For the next several days, Dakota visited Jamie every morning, bringing him books, tea, and that same calm presence he'd always trusted. Doctors called his recovery remarkably fast, though those close to him said it had more to do with who was waiting by his bedside than with any medicine. On the fourth day, Jamie was finally allowed to walk again. Reporters outside caught a glimpse of him, pale but smiling, as he left the hospital arm in arm with Dakota. She kept her head down, but the image of the two walking together instantly went viral. Fans couldn't stop talking about it. It's like fate keeps pulling them back together. She never left him. That says everything. When asked about the ordeal during a later interview, Jamie grew emotional. "Sometimes life reminds you who really matters," he said quietly. "I'm lucky, not just to be alive, but to be loved by people who never give up on me." Dakota, in her own interview weeks later, spoke about the incident with grace. "It changed me," she admitted. "When you almost lose someone you care about, it forces you to see life differently. I don't take people for granted anymore. Her words resonated deeply with fans who had followed their journey for years. The story wasn't just about an accident. It was about two souls whose bond had survived fame, distance, and even fear itself. As the dust settled and life returned to normal, one final photograph captured the world's heart: Jamie and Dakota sitting on a park bench in London, laughing softly under the morning sun. No scripts, no cameras, just two people who had walked through fire and come out stronger. Because sometimes, it takes a near tragedy to remind the world that real connections never fade, and that even in Hollywood, where everything seems temporary, some bonds truly last a lifetime.